My wife and I got married 9 years ago. Originally, the plan was to work and live in the city for at least 5 years before we moved to the suburbs. But when was the last time anything worked according to plan? You see, we weren't planning to get pregnant for the first 5 years of our marriage, and we used contraception for that reason. However, as fate would have it, we got pregnant anyways, and our first child came 4 years too early. I admit, I was shocked when I first learned of the news, but nonetheless, I was ecstatic and very much looking forward to fatherhood. After Christina was born, I was promoted to Director of Operation in the only company I had worked for since graduating college. Situation at work couldn't be better. Christina was healthy and I was earning $300,000 a year, plus incentive. Couple of days after Christina's second birthday, Natalie and I had a long conversation about family planning. We decided that we didn't want our children to have too big of a gap between ages, and we were going to try for our second child. In the next few months, we sold our apartment in the city. Natalie quit her job and we moved to a middle-class suburban neighborhood. I drove to work because the nearest Amtrak station was about an hour away. It took an hour and a half to drive to work, so it made sense to just commute by car. It was a pain in the ass to have to spend 3 hours a day on the road, but I felt that it was well worth the sacrifice in exchange to have my family situated in a safe and pleasant environment. The first month after moving, I had 100 songs downloaded onto my phone, but listening to them day and night got repetitive very quickly. So after the first month, I began listening to sports radio channels, which I haven't done since high school. I also began listening to scary stories on YouTube for the first time in my life. I thought they were lame before I gave them a try, but once I listened to one of them, I became a big fan of the genre. You see, music stations played the same crap I had on my phone, so I quickly became a big fan of the media that offered new contents every day. Every morning and evening during the commute, the radio DJs would talk about different teams and players, YouTube channels would upload different stories, so it definitely was more entertaining than having to listen to Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber every half hour. So one day, it was about a year after we had moved, I got off work early because I had to drive Natalie to the hospital for the regular checkup for her pregnancy. Yes, we got pregnant again, and Natalie wasn't handling her second pregnancy as well as the first one. She had lots of back pain, morning sickness was a daily affair, and she was just miserable day and night. I don't remember the exact time, but it was probably around 1 p.m. when I had driven about halfway home. A few miles back, I had lost radio connection to the sports channel I always listened to. Obviously, it was a bit weird when it happened, but then I thought it must be some kind of malfunction because there was only one frequency the radio could pick up. It was on the 103.7 in the AM band, and the channel seemed to play only oldies. I normally don't drive on this parkway so early in the day, and therefore I'm not all that familiar with traffic at this hour during weekdays. But even when you consider the time that I was driving at, the road still felt too empty. I remember when I initially merged onto the parkway, there were definitely cars on the road. I guess I just wasn't paying attention because at some point they all disappeared. Another thing that I noticed was the lack of buildings on the side of the parkway. Yes, I do drive here mostly at nights, but I have driven during daytime as well, and I know there are gas stations, restaurants, small shopping strips, and whatnot. However, all I see are the occasional trees, and it's mostly just dirt. A wide open plain of dirt and not much else. And did I mention there are no exits? I haven't come across one in the last 20 minutes, but if I'm on the right parkway, I should have seen one every few miles. It is entirely too strange. even if somehow I mistakenly took the wrong parkway. The thing is, we have no desert out here. I stop the car on the shoulder and boot up the GPS navigation system. As it boots up, it pops up a message that says there's no satellite connection. So I flip out my phone and it's the same. It has no connection. With no other choice but to continue driving, I get back in the car, but instead of continuing to head in the same direction, I turn the car around and hope to backtrack my way out of this unfamiliar road. The time is now 2:20 p.m. and I've driven for another hour, but nothing in sight seems familiar. I haven't seen a single car, there are no exits or buildings, and it's just all the same. Asphalt, the occasional trees, and dirt plains as far as the eyes can see. I stop the car again, check the GPS and phone again, but nothing. I'm scared. In fact, I've never been this scared all my life. I have to decide on whether to continue driving in this direction or trying the opposite way. I stand on the asphalt, drenched in sweat. When I hear the sound of a hum, it wasn't machine-like, but rather organic. It sounded like a person was humming a creepy song, but only infinitely louder than any person could sing. I look around and see something black and long, some 200 yards away from where I'm standing. It's just there, motionless, but what makes it incredibly creepy is that it seems like it's hovering in the air. Time to get the fuck out of here. I get back in the car and continue driving the same way, still hoping to backtrack my way. I drive and drive some more, then check the time. It's almost 4 p.m., but I'm still stuck on the same road. I'm thinking about stopping the car again when I see a group of people hitchhiking on the road ahead. It's the most wonderful thing I've seen in hours. In this desolate place, I've finally come across other people. I slow down, roll the passenger side window halfway down, then stop the car. But right away, I pull the window back up, lock the doors, and wait for the strangers to say or do something. These people, they have no eyeballs. I'm not saying that their eye sockets are empty. No, I'm saying they don't even have eye sockets. Above the nose, it's all flesh and hair, yet somehow it feels like they can see me. They've got their heads pointed in my direction, as if they can actually place me. But I assure you, that's impossible. They've got no eyes. Then suddenly, the humming sound is back, and the strange hitchhikers begin saying something that I can't comprehend. I don't know if it's a different language or just gibberish, but I do know it's creepy as fuck. I floor the gas pedal, and just as I do, I can see the black and long figure appearing on my left, and it looks like it's following me. This time the black figure is closer. If I have to guess, the distance between me and it is about 150 yards. The car quickly picks up speed and I'm now traveling at 80 miles per hour, but somehow the thing continues to keep pace. The gas tank is now half empty and according to the in-car diagnostics, I'll run out of gas after 190 miles of travel. I slow down to 45 miles per hour to conserve gas and try to ignore the black figure to think with a clear head. The most logical option is to continue heading in the direction where I came from, but everything that's happened on this road defies logic, so I can't think of a good reason to assume that common sense could get me out of this jam. If I turn the car around and drive in the opposite direction, then I've got 2 hours of travel just to get to the point where I realized I was on the wrong parkway. With only half a tank left in the car, I'm very reluctant to turn the car around again. My last option would be to drive on one of the dirt roadways I see occasionally on the side of the main road, but that seems like a really bad idea. If I run out of gas on the parkway, then at least there's a chance that I might be able to get some help from a passing car. Not that I've seen any in hours. But if I get stuck on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere, then I'd be royally screwed. I drive for another 10 minutes, still unable to make up my mind. But then on the right side of the road, I can see a building slowly coming into view. I pull over right next to it and almost have a heart attack when an elderly man walks out of the small shed-like building. He looks harmless, unlike the ungodly-looking hitchhikers earlier. Still, I'd be lying if I said I'm not feeling apprehensive. The man shows a gentle smile as he walks toward my car. He stands right next to the passenger side door and gestures with his hand for me to roll down the window. I do, but only enough to be able to hear what he has to say. He speaks in a very soothing voice. "Are you lost, stranger?" "I think I am. I've been driving on this road for hours, and you are the first normal person I've seen. Can you tell me where I am?" "I'm not really sure. I don't think this place has a name, but I will tell you two things. First off, the hitchhikers. Don't stop for them. Secondly, the only way to get off this road is to take one of the dirt roads, so do so before you run out of gas." "What happens if I run out of gas?" "Well, you get stuck, dummy." "Do you see any gas stations nearby?" But on a serious note, you don't want to be stuck out here without gas. When things get dark here, the hitchhikers you've seen earlier in the day will be the last thing you'd have to be concerned of. He then points to the black figure that's been shadowing me and says, "That thing that's been following you all day? Think of that as your timer. When that thing catches up with you, you'll be stuck here for an eternity." What is this place? And what is that thing? Why am I even here? Do you want to stay here and listen to my answers, or would you like to go home? I let out a deep sigh and answer, "So which dirt road do I take? I must have passed by hundreds by now." Choices. Life is full of them. I would tell you if I knew, but I don't. I'll tell you what. Pick a road, drive, and see the changes. Feel it and take the path your heart leads you to. What do you mean, feel it? And what changes? You'll understand everything once you choose the path. Now go, you don't have much time. And just like that, he turns around and walks off. I jump out of the car and follow him. He enters the shed and I quickly try to catch up to him, but by the time I get inside, he's no longer there. That's when I'm awoken by a loud humming noise. This time though, it doesn't sound organic. It sounds much like drum and bass guitar is being played as one instrument. I'd explain it better if I could, but it sounds like nothing I ever heard. How did I go from driving to meeting the old man and then waking up on the side of the road? Was the old man real? Maybe he was, or maybe he wasn't. But one thing that I'm certain of is that I'm still on that desolate road. Even worse, it's getting dark and the black figure is much closer now. I start the engine and see that I've got 182 miles of range left, which means regardless of whether or not the old man was real, I did drive for another 10 minutes or so before somehow falling asleep. I get the car moving again, and with darkness hastily descending upon me, I make a quick turn at the next dirt road. About a minute into the drive, the atmosphere changes to something even worse. It's foggy and dusty outside. The light doesn't look normal. It's like a shade of green and gray. I hit the brake and turn the car around. To my surprise, things slowly change back to the way they were as I get closer to the desolate road. But it's too soon to celebrate. The sun is setting and the black figure is only a few cars length behind. I step on the gas and hope that the next dirt road will appear soon. I see one. No, actually, I see two dirt roads. One is on the left side of the road and the other on the right. Which one do I take? The sun is about to set and the black figure is now right behind me. This is going to be the last time I get to make a choice. I take the path on the right. As ridiculous as it may sound, for a split of a second there, I told myself, make the right choice, so let's go to the right. I didn't really have much information or time to make my choice with, so it may as well be the answer. The good news is everything's looking normal so far. The further I go, the brighter things get outside. The GPS continues to flicker the message, attempting satellite connection, and the radio picks up the occasional chatter. I hit the brake hard. The car slides to a stop, just about a feet away from the shoulder on the Parkway. I'm back in the right place, but I almost hit a passing truck, because one moment I was there, whatever there is, and the next I just appeared on the grass right next to the Parkway. Close call, but I'm here, and that's all that matters. I carefully merge onto the traffic and notice that everything's gone back to normal. The GPS has satellite connection, the radio picks up all channels, there's traffic, but there is one anomaly. The clock reads a little past 1 p.m. It is exactly the same time when I initially began to realize I was on the wrong road. So whatever happened to the 4 or 5 hours of time I spent on that desolate road? Too many things have happened, or at least I remember as having experienced them, to say that I could have dreamt them for a few minutes on the side of the road. I remember everything clearly, but the discrepancy in time proves otherwise. I don't understand this. I get home after about 50 minutes, but my house doesn't look the same as I left it this morning. There are lots of bald patches in the lawn. The small outdoor fountain Natalie and I had bought last week is nowhere to be seen, and it's just dirty. We hire people to keep the lawn clean, and Natalie works on them quite often as well. She always keeps the house in an impeccable condition, so this is very much unlike her. I get in the house and right away it smells different. The air is stale and dusty, like it hasn't been cleaned for months. I step into the living room and it's the same deal. Unorganized, dirty, dusty, and even though I left a beautiful house in the morning, now in the afternoon it looks abandoned and distraught. I call for Natalie, but she doesn't answer. I check everywhere, including the basement, backyard, and upstairs, but no one's home. I call Natalie on her cell phone, but it goes directly to her voicemail. So next, I try Natalie's mom, who lives about an hour away from us. My wife goes to see her mom almost every day to check on her because my father-in-law passed away only a month ago, and she hasn't been the same since. The call goes through and I say, "Hey mom, is Natalie with you?" "Jeremy, you have to stop calling. You have to give her some time before she can open up to you again." "Mom, what are you talking about? I'm supposed to take Natalie to see the OBGYN today. Her regular checkup is all." That's when she angrily says, "Have you gone mad? How could you be laughing after all you've done? Your reckless driving got my 2 grandchildren killed. One of them hasn't even taken a single breath outside her mother's womb. And you nearly got my daughter killed as well. Are you laughing because you've so quickly gotten over your children's death? Or have you truly gone mad?" "Mom, I don't understand any of the things you're saying." I wanted to speak to her more. I wanted to get answers. But she just hung up on me abruptly without giving me a chance to do so. I called her back, but she refused to answer. With everything that's happened on the way home, I wanted to take the cautious approach to finding out the truth. I went upstairs to our bedroom and tried to open Natalie's desk, but it was locked. So I grabbed the metal statue I kept displayed in my office and proceeded to smash the lip of the drawer right above the metal lock. After a minute of smashing in the wood, it finally opened. I did all that to get to Natalie's diary. She writes on her diary every night before going to bed. She likes to write down all the important and memorable moments of each day. So if there's something important that I should know but don't, her diary would have all the answers I'm looking for. I flipped through the pages to read the entries from a week before, but surprisingly, she hasn't written down anything. In fact, her last entry on the diary is from 2 months prior from today. I'll transcribe her exact words, so bear in mind this is straight from my wife's diary. It reads, "It's been a month since we lost our 2 girls in the car accident, but I still can't stand living under the same roof with Jeremy. I know it wasn't his fault, not entirely. According to the police report, we were traveling at 40 miles per hour at a 30 mph speed limit zone. Yes, we were T-boned by a vehicle that blew by the stop sign, but I did tell Jeremy to slow down several times on that day. I admit I go over the speed limit all the time, but never when I'm traveling with Christina, and not since I got pregnant again. Had we obeyed the speed limit, we wouldn't have been involved in that accident. All it takes is a second to avoid that moment, and we would have too had Jeremy listened to me at least once that day. I don't want to live with this hatred for the only man I truly loved all of my life. I know how much he blames himself and how brokenhearted he is right now. I have this unending love for him on one hand, but such dark hatred on the other. It tears my heart to see him in so much pain, but when he comes close to me, there's a side of me that wants nothing to do with him. I want to love him, but it's so hard. I've tried, but I've failed. It is time for Jeremy and I to go our separate ways. For now, I'll tell him that I'll be staying at Mom's for a while, and at a later time, I'll tell him the truth that I'm leaving him for good. He's lost too much recently, and I'm afraid of what he'll do to himself if I left him now. I wish I were more forgiving, stronger, and more compassionate, but this is the best I can do for both of us. I pray that my girls are in heaven, in the arms of God. I repent to my Lord, for I'm about to break my vow, and may hurt my husband beyond repair. I will pay for my sins in the afterlife, but for now, I have to find peace away from the man I promised to love until death do us part. I do love you, Jeremy, and I truly hope you'll find peace in your heart someday. Goodbye, my love." I held the diary in my chest and balled up on the floor. I cried for hours until there were no more tears left to shed. It was already dark by the time I was able to regain some composure. I was distraught knowing that whatever happened on that desolate road, something had changed reality and I was never going to see my girls again. I was done with crying and wanted to do something to get my life back. So I drove to the gas station and filled up the tank, then drove to the Parkway where I got lost earlier in the day. I drove until the gas tank was nearly empty, but couldn't go back to the place I so desperately tried to escape. I went back to the gas station to fill up the tank again and drove hours upon hours again without any luck. The following weeks, I took several days off from work and continued driving on the Parkway for as many hours as I could. I tried driving at different times and speed. I even tried walking on the shoulder of the Parkway and nearly got arrested once. It's been months now since the day that everything changed. I still haven't given up, and I still drive on the same patch of the Parkway every chance I get. Natalie still refuses to see me, but I still haven't given up on her either. For as long as I'm here, I want to help her find peace and move on with her life. I'm not trying to convince her to come back to me. All I want is for her to be able to forgive me so she can continue living her life. I know that some people might say that I dreamt up everything to be able to cope with the tragedy of losing a child and an unborn child, but I'm telling you, everything I saw that day really did happen. I have memories of playing with Natalie during the months that she was supposed to be dead. I remember clearly about Natalie's appointment at the OBGYN. They all happened, and I'm not going to allow a fucking shrink to tell me otherwise. The truth is, I feel desperate. I still have a tiny glimmer of hope that I will be able to find that place one day, but it gets harder and harder to hold on to that hope every day that I fail to reach it. My circumstance makes me wonder if hell is maybe nothing more than a different reality of your own life. You, for example, Dennis, your life seems rather great, so this reality is life for you. But for me, it might as well be a scorching hell of never-ending agony. It is hell, and it is torturing to be here. Was I too selfish in my own reality? Have I hurt people to climb up the corporate ladder as aggressively as I had? So am I getting punished for my transgressions? I don't know. I'm really not sure. I do believe in God, and I want to believe that I did my best to live by His words to the best that I could. So why is it so cruel to me? How does anyone deserve this kind of torment? I just want my life back. I would trade my whole life if I can only spend one day with Natalie and Christina. Until I can find my way back to my girls, I keep driving, and I'll never stop until I have them back in my life. That's the end of the stories, ladies and gentlemen. Please allow me to thank Jeremy for sending in the story. I feel that it's inappropriate for me to comment on such tragic personal experience, so for the first time in a long time, I'll forego the usual practice of me giving my opinion during the outro. But I will mention a couple of things. One of them is that I'm thankful of Jeremy for putting his trust on me to rewrite his story as I see fit. The original draft he sent me was 9,000 words long, and I felt that I needed to interview him if I wanted to rewrite the story to a more concise length. I've done my best to include every detail that's important and pertinent to Jeremy's experience, so hopefully it was acceptable by his standard, because I haven't been able to speak to him again since the interview via Skype. Jeremy, I'm not going to pretend to know what's happening to you, but I truly wish that I've lost contact with you because you've finally found what you were looking for. Thanks again, Jeremy. That's going to do it for me as well, but before I go, I do apologize for the long absence and the subsequent lack of contents. For a while there, I had lost all motivation to continue making contents for a channel that could get shut down at any moment, thanks to all the wonderful changes YouTube has brought upon. But I've had a change of heart. I'm going to produce good content for you guys for as long as I can. You've supported me this long, and it wouldn't be right for me to abandon ship at the first sign of trouble. I'm going to be smart with the contents I choose to upload, but I'm no longer going to be afraid of getting shut down by idiot trolls. If the channel gets taken down tomorrow, so be it. I at least will know I went down swinging. I'm going to be around for as long as I'm allowed to, so I want every one of you to know that I ain't going anywhere, unless I'm forced out, of course. I've got lots of videos on queue. Many are short in length and some longer. I had to make several short ones because I'm running behind on so many subscriber submitted stories, and I had to make videos out of them without the extensive rewrite that I normally do. The backlog is about 4 months long, so allow me to catch up with them before I delve into the longer stories again. I would also like to ask you to give the shorter videos a try as well, as I don't make videos out of the stories that I personally haven't found interesting or entertaining. I do apologize in advance to those of you who've sent your stories and eventually will find out that your stories will not be featured on my channel. The choices are made based on my personal preference, so please don't be offended even if your stories don't get featured in the future. The omissions do not reflect the quality or the integrity of your stories. It is only based on my personal preference that the selection happens. So everyone, thank you for your submissions. I hope you're having a pleasant day, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.